heatwave on the horizon. The stellar resolve floated silently through the void, its sleek design glinting faintly under distant starlight. The crew aboard was an eclectic mix of species, a testament to the Interstellar Alliance's grand experiment in unity. Humans, with their reputation for resilience and adaptability, were a minority on this mission. Captain Mira Vaughn, a seasoned human leader, stood at the helm. Her sharp eyes scanned the glowing display panels, brimming with data streams from the ship's advanced systems. But something was wrong. The hum of the cooling systems, usually a background comfort, had grown ominously quiet. Suddenly, alarms blared, and the voice of the ship's AI, serene but urgent, broke the calm. Critical alert, cooling system failure. Internal temperature rising. Immediate action required. Myra's heart tightened. Cooling system failures in deep space weren't just inconvenient, they were catastrophic. The first signs of trouble. Eris, what's going on? Mira called to the chief engineer, a burly Tautan alien with 4 arms and a penchant for calm under pressure. Eris's deep voice rumbled back, cooling coils are fried, Captain. The backup systems aren't responding either. We're looking at a full-scale shutdown if we don't fix this. The temperature was already climbing. Crew members began to shift uncomfortably, tugging at their uniforms as the air grew heavier. The stellar resolve was designed for efficiency, not luxury, and the heat quickly turned its corridors into a metal oven. Among the crew were the graceful Valyrians, whose silvery, translucent skin shimmered faintly with sweat, and the muscular Drakari warriors, who exchanged uneasy glances. Neither species was accustomed to extremes. Meanwhile, Mira noticed her human crew members, though sweating, kept moving with remarkable composure. An unconventional plan. Engineering team, meet me in the control bay, Mira commanded, striding briskly toward the heart of the ship. Her voice was calm, but her mind raced. She knew this situation could escalate quickly. Without cooling, they had hours at most before the rising temperature became lethal. The control bay was already crowded and Mira arrived. Eris was hunched over a console, his 4 hands working furiously, while his assistant, a young human named Danny, scanned schematics. Give it to me straight, Mira said. Eris shook his head, frustration etched on his broad face. The system isn't just offline, it's failing catastrophically. Restarting it is out of the question. We need to rebuild the core components manually. Manually? Mira frowned. That would take time they didn't have. Unless you've got another miracle tucked in your pocket, Captain, Danny piped up, her tone sharp but not unkind, this is our only shot. Mira took a steadying breath. Humans were known for finding solutions under pressure, but this was a tall order. Tensions rise. As the temperature soared past 85 degrees Fahrenheit, the differences among the crew began to show. The Drakari, proud and stoic, had already removed their heavy armor, revealing powerful scales beneath. Still, their discomfort was evident. This is intolerable, growled Kazrek, the Drakari's second-in-command. His golden eyes fixed on Mira with thinly veiled frustration. Our people are warriors, not beasts to be roasted alive. Mira met his gaze evenly. And humans are known for thriving in adversity. Let's see if the Drakari can match that reputation. Kazrek's jaw tightened, but he said nothing more. Meanwhile, the Valyrians clustered near the vents, their delicate physiology ill-suited to the heat. Liana, their envoy, fanned herself ineffectively with a data pad. Captain Vaughn, she began, her voice trembling, this is beyond our tolerance. We must do something now. I'm aware, Liana, Mira replied evenly. We're working on it. But I need all of you to hold together. We're in this as one crew, or not at all. Stripping down for survival. When the temperature hit 95 degrees Fahrenheit, Mira made a decision that left the alien crew stunned. Humans, lose the layers, she ordered, peeling off her jacket and rolling up the sleeves of her sweat-soaked shirt. The human crew complied without hesitation, shedding outerwear and tying it around their waists. Kazrek's golden eyes narrowed. "Is this some human ritual?" he asked, his tone half mocking. "Survival 101, Mira shot back. When your body's fighting heat, every little advantage helps." Liana turned away, her silvery skin flushing faintly. "How improper," she muttered, but her discomfort was overshadowed by her growing respect. The human factor. While the aliens struggled visibly, Mira observed her human crew. They joked, they sweated, but they worked. There was no hesitation, no complaints, just focus. Dani, despite her flushed cheeks, was already assembling makeshift components under Eris's watchful eye. "Captain," Dani called out, "we're rigging a bypass for the coolant flow. It won't be pretty, but it might buy us time." "Good," Mira said, her voice carrying across the room. "Keep at it." The aliens, watching the humans' calm persistence, began to mirror their determination. Even Kazrek grudgingly adjusted his posture, standing tall despite the oppressive heat. The first spark of unity. By the time the temperature reached 100 degrees Fahrenheit, the crew's differences had begun to blur. It wasn't about species or customs anymore, it was about survival. Mira addressed the room, her voice steady but firm. "This heat doesn't care what world you're from. We fight it together, or we don't fight it at all. I need every one of you, Drakari, Valyrian, human, to give me your best. Let's show this ship what real teamwork looks like." For the first time, Mira saw something in the crew's eyes: unity. As the humans led the charge with grit and ingenuity, the aliens began to realize that the greatest strength wasn't physical or intellectual, it was the ability to adapt, to endure, and to face the impossible head-on. And with that, the battle against the heat truly began. The breaking point. The oppressive heat clawed at every corner of the stellar resolve, transforming the sleek starship into a suffocating crucible. By now, the temperature had climbed to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and even the human crew, known for their adaptability, began to show signs of wear. Sweat dripped from brows, soaked through shirts, and pooled in the soles of boots. Yet their spirits, while tested, remained unbroken. In the engineering bay, Dani crouched by the coolant lines, her hands slick with sweat and grease. Beside her, Eris, the Tautan engineer, cursed softly under his breath as his tools slipped from his massive hands. "Captain," Dani called over the comms, her voice strained but determined. "We've got a shot at rerouting the coolant, but we're going to need more power to stabilize the system. The auxiliary grid is overloaded." Myra's voice crackled through the comms. "Understood. Get it done, Dani. I'll handle the power distribution from the bridge." Cultural tensions boil over. On the bridge, the heat had ignited more than just discomfort. The alien crew members, already vulnerable in the rising temperatures, began to bristle under the strain. "This is madness," Liana, the Valyrian envoy, snapped. Her silvery skin shimmered with sweat as she paced near the viewport. "Our bodies are not built for this environment. We need immediate action, not more human improvisation." Kazrek, the Drakari warrior, growled from his station. "Stop complaining, Valyrian. At least your kind has the luxury of standing still. We Drakari are built for action, and this heat makes our scales burn." Mira, standing near the central console, turned sharply. "Enough. I don't care what your physiology is built for. This isn't the time for arguments. Either work together, or step aside." Her words carried the weight of command, cutting through the rising tension. Liana stopped pacing, while Kazrek's growl faded to a low rumble. The two exchanged a glance, mutual frustration, yes, but also the faintest hint of understanding. A lesson in human resilience. Down in the crew quarters, a group of humans gathered near an open vent, hoping to catch a trickle of cooler air. Aaron, a wiry communications officer, leaned back against the wall, his shirt tied around his neck like a scarf. "This heat's nothing," he said, grinning through the sweat dripping down his face. "You should have seen the summers back on Earth. 50 degrees Celsius, and we were still out playing soccer." Lisha, a younger Valyrian technician, blinked at him in disbelief. 50. And you survived? Barely, Aaron replied, his grin widening. But we did. Humans are like cockroaches, hard to kill, and we keep coming back. The remark drew nervous laughter from the aliens nearby. For the first time, the Valyrians and Drakari weren't just seeing humans as stubborn, they were beginning to understand the strength that came with it. Pushing through the heat. As the temperature reached 115 degrees Fahrenheit, even the humans began to falter. Mira returned to the bridge, her hair damp with sweat, to find Lyanna slumped against the wall. "Lyanna," Mira said, crouching beside the Valyrian. "How are you holding up?" Lyanna looked up, her eyes dull with exhaustion. "Your people, you act as though this heat is nothing. But for us, it's unbearable. How do you do it?" Mira paused. She could feel the heat pressing down on her own body, sapping her strength, clouding her thoughts. But she pushed through. "We don't ignore it," Mira said softly. "We feel it, just like you do. But instead of letting it stop us, we focus on what we can control. One step at a time, one breath at a time. That's how we survive." Lyanna stared at her, the faintest flicker of hope returning to her gaze. The turning point. In engineering, Dany wiped her face with the back of her hand, leaving a streak of grease on her cheek. "All right, Eris," she said, her voice tight with focus. "The bypass is set, but it's going to blow if we can't cool the flow. We need a manual coolant purge to stabilize it." Eris's lower arms gestured wildly. "That's suicide. Whoever goes into the coolant chamber won't last more than a minute in this heat." Dany's lips curved into a small, grim smile. "Then it's a good thing humans are stubborn, isn't it?" Before Eris could protest further, Dany grabbed a toolkit and sprinted toward the coolant chamber. A heroic gamble. The chamber was a steel tomb, the air shimmering with heat distortion. Dany stepped inside, her skin instantly slick with sweat as the oppressive heat wrapped around her like a suffocating blanket. "Dany, what are you doing?" Myra's voice rang sharply through the calm. "Buying us time," Dany replied, her breathing heavy. "Just keep the system steady, Captain. I'll handle the rest." Her hands worked quickly, adjusting valves and redirecting pressure. The heat was overwhelming, making her vision blur and her head pound, but she focused on Myra's earlier words, one step at a time. Outside, the crew watched in tense silence as Dany's life signs flickered on the monitors. Hope amid the heat. Finally, with a sharp hiss, the coolant system roared to life. Dany stumbled out of the chamber, her body drenched in sweat but her expression triumphant. "It's not perfect," she said, collapsing into Eris's waiting arms, "but it'll hold for now." The temperature in the ship began to stabilize, dropping slowly but steadily. On the bridge, Mira allowed herself a rare smile. "We're not out of the woods yet," she said, addressing the crew. "But this? This is what happens when we work together. Let's finish what we started." As the heat began to subside, the aliens looked at the humans with a newfound respect. What they had once dismissed as recklessness, they now saw as courage. And for the first time, they began to wonder if they could learn something from their human counterparts. Bonds forged in fire. The stellar resolve began to cool, but the crew's ordeal was far from over. The temperature had dropped to a tolerable 95 degrees Fahrenheit, but the damage to the ship's systems was more extensive than initially thought. Every step forward felt like a battle against the odds. Yet, amidst the tension, something unexpected began to emerge: solidarity. In the aftermath of the coolant purge, Dany sat in the ship's infirmary, her face flushed but determined. Across from her sat Kazrek, the imposing Drakari warrior, his scaled body shimmering faintly under the low lights. For a moment, neither spoke, the silence heavy with unspoken gratitude. "I didn't think humans could be so reckless," Kazrek said at last, his golden eyes narrowing slightly. Dani smirked, wincing as she adjusted a cold compress on her forehead. "Reckless? Maybe. But sometimes reckless is what it takes to survive." Kazrek grunted, his tone softer than usual. "Reckless, or brave? A lesson in vulnerability." On the bridge, Mira watched as the Valyrians worked alongside the humans, their delicate hands moving with surprising precision. Lyanna, who had been vocal about her discomfort earlier, now stood shoulder to shoulder with Aaron, the wiry communications officer. "I still don't understand how you endure this heat," Lyanna admitted, glancing sideways at Aaron. Aaron shrugged, his smile faint. "We don't endure it, we adapt to it. Big difference." Lyanna tilted her head, her silvery features reflecting the dim light of the control panels. "Adaptation is not a concept we value. We believe in maintaining balance, not shifting to survive chaos." "That's the thing," Aaron replied, his tone thoughtful. "Humans don't wait for balance. When things fall apart, we build something new. Even if it's messy, even if it's not perfect, we just keep going." Lyanna considered his words, the tension in her posture softening. The unexpected breakthrough. In engineering, Eris leaned over a console, his 4 hands flying across the controls. The Taltan engineer's usual calm was tempered by frustration. "Captain, the coolant bypass is holding, but the central systems are still in flux. If we don't stabilize them soon, we risk another failure." Myra's voice came through the comm, steady as always. "What do you need?" Eris hesitated, then sighed. "We're running out of components. The only option might be to cannibalize secondary systems, but that'll leave us vulnerable in other areas." Before Mira could respond, Kazrek's deep voice cut through the tension. "Use the weapons grid." Eris froze, his lower arms twitching. "The weapons grid? That's insanity. Without it, we'll be defenseless." Kazrek stepped forward, his broad shoulders blocking the light. "What use are weapons if we don't survive to fire them? Sacrifice the grid. Save the ship." Myra's silence hung heavy over the comm before she spoke. "Do it. Eris, take what you need from the grid. Kazrek, assist him. If this fails, we'll need every hand to make it right." Teamwork amid chaos. The engineering bay buzzed with activity. Humans, Drakari, and Valyrians worked side by side, their differences forgotten in the face of shared survival. Kazrek hefted a heavy plasma conduit with ease, handing it to Eris, who attached it to the coolant stabilizer. Nearby, Dani instructed a pair of Valyrian technicians on rerouting power lines. Despite their earlier doubts, the aliens followed her lead, their respect for the humans evident in their swift compliance. "Never thought I'd be taking orders from a human," one of the Valyrians muttered. Dani grinned, wiping sweat from her brow. "And I never thought I'd be fixing a spaceship with aliens. Guess today's full of surprises. An unlikely alliance." As the repairs progressed, Mira called for a momentary pause, gathering the crew in the main corridor. The temperature was still high, but the air carried a faint chill, a promise of the systems returning to normal. "We've been tested today," Mira began, her voice firm but warm. "Not just by the heat, but by our differences. Humans, Drakari, Valyrians, we come from worlds that couldn't be more different. And yet, here we are, still standing." Her gaze swept over the crew, lingering on Lyanna, Kazrek, and Dani. This wasn't about strength or intellect. It was about working together, about trusting one another when it mattered most. "And that's what will get us through this." Kazrek crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. "Trust is not something my people give easily, Captain. But today, you've earned it. Liana nodded, her silvery features softening. As have you, Kazrek. Perhaps balance is not something we wait for. Perhaps it's something we create together. The final push. The crew returned to their stations with renewed determination. In engineering, Eris and Danny completed the final adjustments to the coolant stabilizer. On the bridge, Mira directed power flow to the critical systems, her commands precise and unwavering. As the temperature dropped to 85 degrees Fahrenheit, a faint cheer rippled through the ship. The oppressive heat that had bound them was finally breaking. "Captain," Aaron called from his console, his voice tinged with relief. "Environmental controls are stabilizing. We've got breathable air and livable temperatures again." Mira allowed herself a small smile. "Good work, everyone. But let's not celebrate just yet. We've still got a ship to fix." A shared understanding. Later, as the crew gathered in the mess hall for a brief reprieve, the air was filled with quiet conversation and shared laughter. The Drakari, usually reserved, shared stories of their homeworld's volcanic terrain, while the Valyrians recounted tales of their icy oceans. Danny sat beside Liana, their earlier tension replaced by camaraderie. "You know," Danny said, "you're not so bad for a Valyrian." Liana arched a silvery brow. "And you're surprisingly tolerable for a human." Kazrek, seated nearby, chuckled, a rare sound from the stoic warrior. Perhaps this, human adaptability, is contagious. Mira watched from a distance, a sense of pride swelling in her chest. The crew had faced the breaking point and come through stronger. They weren't just a group of individuals anymore, they were a team. And the stellar resolve was ready to face whatever came next. A spark of ingenuity. The stellar resolve was finally cooling, but the battle wasn't over. While the air was breathable and the temperature tolerable, the damage to the ship's systems remained severe. With the coolant stabilizer only a temporary fix and vital components cannibalized from the weapons grid, survival still hinged on ingenuity. Captain Mira Vaughn stood in the dimly lit bridge, the soft hum of the ship's functions returning to life. The glow of the control panels reflected her resolve, but beneath her calm exterior, a storm brewed. They were still stranded in deep space with no immediate plan for propulsion repairs. "We need a permanent solution," Mira muttered, tapping her fingers on the console. The call to innovate. Down in the engineering bay, Danny and Eris were already brainstorming. The human engineer sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by loose wires, broken conduits, and spare parts. Eris loomed over her, his 4 arms gesticulating as he explained the latest challenge. "If we divert more energy to the stabilizer, we risk overloading the reactor," Eris said, his voice tinged with concern. "But if we don't stabilize propulsion soon, we'll drift further into the void." Danny grinned, her face streaked with grease. "Then we need to get creative. Have you ever heard of the human phrase, duct tape and determination?" Eris blinked, his expression puzzled. "I don't know what duct tape is, but determination sounds dangerous." "Not dangerous, effective," Danny replied, her grin widening. "Let's rig a temporary energy conduit from the auxiliary systems. It's not pretty, but it might give us enough power to jumpstart propulsion." Eris hesitated, then nodded. "It's unconventional, but at this point, unconventional is all we have." Rising to the challenge. While Danny and Eris worked, Mira convened the rest of the crew in the mess hall. The room was quieter than usual, the weight of their situation palpable. Mira stood before them, her tone steady but firm. "We're not out of this yet," she began. "The cooling system is holding, but propulsion is still offline. If we don't find a solution soon, we'll drift into uncharted space." Kazrek crossed his arms, his golden eyes sharp. "What's your plan, Captain? We've already sacrificed our weapons grid. What more can we give?" Myra's gaze swept the room. "We give our ideas, our effort, and our creativity. This ship has the best minds from 3 species. If anyone can find a way out of this, it's us. Liana, the Valyrian envoy, raised a delicate hand. Captain, with respect, our cultures don't value improvisation the way humans do. What you call creativity, we see as risk. Then it's time to take a risk, Mira replied, her voice unyielding. Because playing it safe isn't an option. A sudden inspiration. Back in engineering, Dani's makeshift conduit was beginning to take shape. She leaned back, wiping her forehead with her sleeve, and stared at the mess of wires and components before her. This could work, she muttered. It's ugly, but it's got potential. Eris, studying the schematic she'd sketched on a datapad, tilted his head. Your methods are unconventional. I'm beginning to understand why humans have a reputation for chaos. Chaos gets things done, Dani replied with a wink. Now let's test this thing. The test run. The ship's engine room thrummed with nervous energy as the crew gathered for the test. Mira stood beside Eris at the main console, while Dani monitored the temporary conduit. Ready when you are, Dani called, her voice steady despite the tension. Eris's 4 hands danced over the controls. Engaging the bypass, now. The ship shuddered as the energy conduit roared to life. For a moment, everything held, then a loud crack echoed through the room, followed by a shower of sparks. The lights flickered, and the crew braced themselves for the worst. Shut it down. Mira shouted. Eris slammed his hand onto the emergency override, and the hum of the conduit faded into silence. Dani groaned, collapsing onto a nearby crate. Well, that didn't work. No, Eris said, inspecting the damage. But it didn't fail completely. We're closer than we were before. The power of collaboration. As the crew regrouped, Mira addressed them again. We've seen progress. It's not enough, but it's a step forward. And every step counts. Liana, who had been observing silently, stepped forward. Captain, I've been thinking, humans are not the only ones capable of improvisation. If we combine Valyrian cooling technologies with Drakari energy storage methods, perhaps we could create a more stable conduit. Kazrek raised a scaled brow. Valyrian cooling and Drakari energy? That's an unusual combination. It's no more unusual than duct tape and determination, Liana replied, a faint smile touching her lips. A new path forward. The next attempt was a true collaboration. Humans, Drakari, and Valyrians worked together, pooling their knowledge and resources. The ship's auxiliary systems were stripped for parts, and new connections were forged. As the final adjustments were made, Mira addressed the crew one last time. This is it. All of our effort, all of our ingenuity, it comes down to this. Let's show the universe what we're capable of. Dani grinned from her station, her fingers poised over the controls. Ready when you are, Captain. Mira nodded. Engage. The ship shuddered again, but this time, the hum of the engines was steady. The conduit held, and the stellar resolve began to move. A cheer erupted from the crew, the sound filling the once stifling air with hope. A glimpse of unity. As the ship stabilized, Mira turned to face her crew. We did this together. Not as humans, Drakari, or Valyrians, but as one team. And that's how we'll face whatever comes next. Kazrek inclined his head in acknowledgement. Your methods may be chaotic, Captain, but they work. You've earned my respect. Liana smiled faintly. Perhaps there's more to this human improvisation than we thought. Mira chuckled softly. Stick around. We've got plenty more where that came from. For the first time since the crisis began, the crew felt not just relief, but pride. The stellar resolve was no longer just a ship, it was a testament to the power of unity and ingenuity. A new threat emerges. The hum of the restored engines filled the stellar resolve with a sense of accomplishment, but it wasn't long before that victory gave way to unease. As the ship limped forward, guided by the patched-up systems and the crew's collective effort, the proximity sensors began to flash ominously. Captain Mira Vaughn stood on the bridge, her sharp eyes fixed on the main display. The readouts painted a troubling picture, a massive anomaly ahead, something that defied immediate classification. "Report," Mira ordered, her voice cutting through the low chatter of the bridge. Aaron, the human communications officer, frowned at his console. "There's a gravitational disturbance up ahead. It's pulling us in, Captain. Whatever it is, it's big, and it's messing with our systems." The unseen pull. Down in engineering, Danny and Eris were already feeling the effects. The temporary conduit, barely stable to begin with, flickered ominously. The ship shuddered as unseen forces gripped it. "Captain, we've got a problem," Danny's voice crackled through the comm. "The propulsion system can't handle this kind of strain. Whatever's out there, it's pulling us in fast. Can we reverse course?" Mira asked, gripping the arm of her chair. "Not a chance," Eris replied. "If we try, the entire system might collapse." Myra's jaw tightened. "Then we're going in. Prepare the ship for whatever's on the other side. Into the unknown." The crew braced themselves as the stellar resolve hurtled toward the anomaly. The view through the main viewport was both mesmerizing and terrifying, a swirling vortex of light and shadow, pulsating with an unnatural rhythm. Liana, the Valyrian envoy, stared at the phenomenon with wide eyes. This isn't natural. No known star or planet behaves like this." Kazrek, standing nearby, growled low in his throat. "It doesn't matter what it is. If it's a threat, we'll deal with it." Myra's gaze remained fixed on the display. "Let's hope it's not hostile. But if it is, we'll be ready. The vortex reveals its secrets." As the ship entered the anomaly, the world outside the viewport shifted. Colors twisted and folded in on themselves, and the gravitational forces made the ship groan under the pressure. Suddenly, the turbulence stopped, replaced by an eerie stillness. Aaron's voice broke the silence. "Captain, we're somewhere else." The anomaly was a gateway. The main display showed a strange region of space. Massive structures, resembling jagged towers of black metal, floated in the void. They emitted faint, pulsing lights, as though alive. "Scans?" Mira asked, her tone cautious. Liana answered, her voice trembling. "The structures are emitting energy signatures far beyond anything in our databases. This technology is ancient and powerful." First contact. Before the crew could process the discovery, a sudden surge of energy enveloped the ship. The lights flickered, and the console sparked. A deep, resonant hum filled the air, a sound that felt alive, as though the anomaly itself were speaking. "Captain!" Aaron shouted. "We're being scanned. Something's probing our systems, everything from propulsion to life support." "Shut down non-essential systems," Mira ordered. "If they're looking for weaknesses, don't give them any." The hum grew louder, and then a voice echoed through the ship. It wasn't a sound but a sensation, a presence pressing into the minds of every crew member. "You are intruders. Explain your purpose." A fragile negotiation. Mira stepped forward, addressing the entity with unwavering confidence. "This is Captain Mira Vaughn of the Stellar Resolve. We mean no harm. Our ship encountered a mechanical failure, and we were pulled into this anomaly." The presence paused, as if considering her words. Then it spoke again, its tone measured and cold. "You are not welcome here. Your kind is known for destruction. Why should we allow you to leave?" Liana stepped beside Mira, her voice calm but urgent. "Ancient One, we are explorers, not conquerors. If we have trespassed, it was unintentional. Allow us to repair our ship, and we will leave your domain in peace." The hum faded slightly, but the entity's presence remained. You claim peace, yet your technology disrupts the balance of this place. Prove your intent. A test of unity. The entity's challenge sent ripples of tension through the crew. Mira turned to her team, her mind racing. Ideas? Kazrek stepped forward, his voice firm. They respect balance. Show them how we've restored it on this ship, humans, Valyrians, Drakari, working as one. Let that be our proof. Mira nodded, realizing he was right. Turning back to the presence, she said, let us show you what we've accomplished together. Perhaps our unity will demonstrate our intent. The hum returned, softer this time. You may proceed. Demonstrating the power of unity. Over the next several hours, the crew worked tirelessly to present their collaboration. They transmitted data showing how their combined efforts had stabilized the ship's systems, their shared knowledge overcoming the crisis. The presence seemed to observe in silence, its energy pulsing faintly. Finally, it spoke. Your cooperation is unique. Your species have proven resourceful, yet dangerous. Leave this place and do not return. But take this warning, balance is fragile. Protect it, or you will face the consequences. A new perspective. As the anomaly released the stellar resolve, the crew breathed a collective sigh of relief. The strange structures faded into the distance, and the familiar stars of their galaxy reappeared. In the quiet aftermath, Liana turned to Mira. Do you think we'll ever understand what we encountered? Mira shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. Maybe not. But understanding isn't always necessary. What matters is that we survived, and we did it together. Kazrek grunted in agreement. You humans, your chaos saved us again. I might even admit I'm starting to respect it. Dani laughed, leaning back in her chair. Careful, Kazrek. That almost sounded like a compliment. As the crew shared a rare moment of levity, the stellar resolve pushed forward, carrying them into the next chapter of their journey. Shadows in the void. The stellar resolve had escaped the anomaly, but the crew's trials were far from over. The ship drifted in uncharted space, its systems barely holding together. The sense of relief that had swept through the team after their encounter with the ancient entity was short-lived. With no clear direction home, they were now faced with an even greater uncertainty, survival in the depths of the unknown. Captain Mira Vaughn stood at the bridge's main console, her gaze fixed on the dim expanse outside the viewport. The stars here seemed darker, distant, as if the void itself were watching. Captain, Aaron called out from his station, his voice tinged with unease. There's something out there. Multiple signals, closing fast. Uninvited guests. The crew snapped to attention as Aaron's words sank in. On the tactical display, faint blips appeared on the periphery, moving steadily toward the stellar resolve. Pirates. Kazrek growled, his claws flexing instinctively. Liana frowned, her silvery skin reflecting the faint glow of the monitors. Not necessarily. These signals don't match any known configurations. They could be something else. Prepare for contact, Mira ordered, her tone sharp. Kazrek, get the remaining defenses online. Aaron, try hailing them. Let's see if they're friendly. Aaron worked quickly, sending out a standard diplomatic signal. Moments later, a response crackled through the comms, harsh, guttural, and unmistakably hostile. Surrender your vessel. All lifeforms aboard will be processed. Resistance is futile. A desperate defense. The tension on the bridge thickened as the alien ships emerged from the darkness. They were angular and predatory, their hulls bristling with weapons. Kazrek let out a low growl. Captain, our weapons grid is down to 30%. We won't survive a direct fight. Myra's mind raced. The stellar resolve was barely holding together, a battle would mean certain destruction. But surrendering wasn't an option either. Danny, Eris, Mira said over the comm, I need options. Fast. In the engineering bay, Danny's hands flew across a console. Captain, we might be able to overclock the propulsion system. It'll fry what's left of the conduits, but it could give us a burst of speed to escape. Eris nodded, his 4 arms moving in sync. It's risky, but it's better than staying here and getting blasted. Mira turned to Kazrek. Can you buy us time? The Drakari warrior's golden eyes gleamed. Always. Outrunning the enemy. As the alien ships closed in, Kazrek and the remaining weapons crew unleashed a barrage of fire. The Stellar Resolve shuddered under the strain, its weakened systems barely holding. Danny, now would be a great time for that miracle, Mira muttered, gripping the armrest of her chair. Almost there. Danny called back. Overclocking in 3, 2, 1. The ship lurched violently as the engines roared to life, propelling the Stellar Resolve forward with a burst of speed. The alien ships gave chase, their weapons firing relentlessly. We're not out of this yet, Aaron warned. They're gaining on us. Turning the tables. Myra's mind raced as the ship hurtled through the void. The alien ships were faster, more maneuverable, but the Stellar Resolve had one advantage, its crew. Liana, Mira said suddenly, can Valyrian technology disrupt targeting systems? Liana's eyes widened in realization. Yes. If we reverse the polarity of the cooling stabilizer, it could emit a field that scrambles their sensors. But it's a gamble. We like gambles, Mira replied. Do it. Liana sprinted to the engineering bay, where Danny and Eris were already working to reconfigure the stabilizer. This is insane, Danny muttered, her fingers flying over the controls. Welcome to life with humans, Liana replied, a faint smile touching her lips. The final push. As the alien ships closed in, the Stellar Resolve released a burst of energy from the modified stabilizer. The field enveloped the pursuing ships, causing their targeting systems to glitch and their movements to falter. They're disoriented. Aaron shouted. We've got an opening. Full speed ahead, Mira commanded. Let's get out of here. The ship surged forward, leaving the alien vessels behind. For the first time in hours, the tension on the bridge eased as the enemy blips disappeared from the tactical display. Reflections in the aftermath. In the quiet that followed, the crew gathered in the mess hall, their exhaustion evident but their spirits intact. Kazrek leaned back in his chair, his claws tapping against the table. Humans and their gambles. You're going to get us all killed one day, Captain. Mira chuckled softly. Not today, Kazrek. Not today. Liana sipped a cup of nutrient tea, her silvery eyes thoughtful. Your willingness to adapt, to take risks, it's remarkable. We Valyrians have much to learn from it. And we have much to learn from your balance, Mira replied. Surviving out here isn't just about brute force or quick thinking. It's about using all our strengths, together. As the crew shared quiet laughter and reflection, the Stellar Resolve drifted onward, battered but unbroken. The void held many challenges, but for this crew, unity had become their greatest weapon. The light beyond the void. The Stellar Resolve limped through uncharted space, its battered hull a testament to the crew's resilience. Repairs were underway, but the strain of the journey weighed heavily on everyone aboard. Yet, amidst the chaos, there was a glimmer of hope, a faint signal, distant but unmistakable. Captain Mira Vaughn stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the flickering readout. The signal pulsed in rhythmic intervals, unlike any distress beacon in their database. Could it be a relay station? Aaron asked, his voice tinged with cautious optimism. Unlikely, Liana replied, her silvery skin reflecting the soft light of the consoles. This signal is ancient, far older than anything our alliance has deployed. Myra's gaze remained steady. Whatever it is, it's the best lead we've got. Set a course. A beacon of possibility. As the ship approached the source of the signal, the crew's anticipation grew. On the main display, a massive structure came into view, a gleaming station suspended in the void, its design a fusion of elegance and functionality. Its surface shimmered with an energy field that pulsed in harmony with the signal. "Scans?" Mira asked. Erisa's voice crackled through the calm. "The station's powered, but its systems are dormant. No life signs detected. It's been here for centuries, maybe longer." Kazrek frowned, his claws tapping against the railing. "If it's abandoned, why send a signal now?" "Only one way to find out," Mira said. "Prepare a landing team." Exploring the unknown. The landing party, Mira, Kazrek, Liana, and Danny, stepped into the station through a dimly lit airlock. The atmosphere was breathable, the temperature cool, and the air carried a faint metallic tang. The interior was a marvel of alien engineering. Walls of smooth, glowing material pulsed faintly, responding to their presence. Strange glyphs adorned every surface, their meaning elusive yet tantalizingly close to comprehension. "This place is alive," Danny whispered, running her hand along the wall. "Not alive," Liana corrected, her voice reverent. "Responsive. It's like it's waiting for something, or someone." As they ventured deeper, the glyphs began to shift, forming patterns that seemed to align with their thoughts. Mira felt a faint hum in her mind, as though the station were trying to communicate. The station's test. They entered a central chamber, where a massive crystalline structure pulsed with light. As they approached, the hum intensified, and a voice echoed in their minds, ancient and commanding. "Travelers, you have reached the nexus of understanding. Prove your worth, or face oblivion." Kazrek growled, his hand instinctively reaching for his weapon. "Another test? Haven't we faced enough?" Mira held up a hand. "Wait. This isn't a threat, it's a challenge. It wants to see if we're capable of something more." The crystalline structure projected a series of holographic scenarios, each presenting impossible dilemmas. Resources stretched too thin, moral quandaries, and conflicts of survival. The crew had to work together, combining their unique strengths to solve each challenge. Unity in action. The first challenge tested their intellect, a complex puzzle that required precision and logical thinking. Liana's analytical mind shone, her calm focus guiding them through the solution. The second challenge demanded physical strength and endurance. Kazrek took the lead, his Drakari might pulling the team through a simulated disaster scenario. The third and final challenge was the most difficult, a test of trust and adaptability. The hologram presented a scenario where failure seemed inevitable unless each team member relied on the others completely. "This isn't about individuals," Mira realized aloud. "It's about what we can accomplish together." Guided by Myra's leadership, the team worked seamlessly, their differences becoming their greatest strength. As the final puzzle resolved, the chamber filled with a brilliant light. The Nexus awakens. The crystalline structure pulsed with energy, its voice now softer, almost approving. "You have proven yourselves worthy, not through power, but through unity. Take what you need, and carry this lesson forward. The balance of the universe depends on it." A panel slid open, revealing a cache of advanced technology, enough to repair the stellar resolve and more. Among the items was a device that pulsed with the same energy as the station, its purpose unclear but brimming with potential. Danny's eyes widened. "This could change everything. It's light years ahead of anything we've seen." Kazrek grunted. "Let's just hope it doesn't blow up in our faces." Mira smiled faintly. "Let's hope it helps us get home." A renewed purpose. Back aboard the Stellar Resolve, the crew worked tirelessly to integrate the newfound technology. The ship came alive with new energy, systems running smoother than ever before. In the mess hall, Mira addressed the crew, her voice carrying the weight of their shared experiences. "We've faced impossible odds and come through stronger, together. This isn't just a ship anymore, it's a testament to what we can achieve when we put aside our differences and trust each other. Liana raised her glass, a rare smile gracing her lips. To unity, and to the lessons we've learned in this journey. Kazrek nodded, his golden eyes gleaming. And to humans and their chaos. I may not understand it, but I've learned to respect it. The crew laughed, their bonds forged in the fires of adversity. The journey continues. As the stellar resolve set course for home, the stars seemed brighter, closer. The crew knew their journey was far from over, but they faced it with a newfound sense of purpose. In the captain's quarters, Mira studied the strange device they had recovered. Its soft hum filled the room, a reminder of the ancient entity's warning, balance is fragile. Whatever comes next, Mira murmured, we'll face it together. And with that, the stellar resolve disappeared into the vast expanse, a beacon of hope in a universe full of endless possibilities.